The last thing my coworker said before leaving me alone in that old station was, "Keep your keys on you." I laughed. I thought she was joking. I was wrong. I'd only been working there 13 days. It was a horror-themed escape room built inside an old, disused underground station, the kind of job that sounds fake when you try to explain it to people. I loved horror. I needed the money. I didn't mind that the place always smelled like dust, damp concrete, and old metal. The company had done a decent job converting it. The ticket hall was reception now. The old staff rooms were offices and storage. The platforms had become escape rooms with names like the Blackout, Last Train, and the Shelter. But no matter how many fake cobwebs they hung, you could always tell what the building used to be. On my first shift, the manager asked how long I thought I'd last. "Until I get fired, probably," I said, half joking. He smiled, not like it was funny. "Most people say that." Everyone who worked there was a little strange. I figured that came with the territory. So when my coworkers said odd things in that deadpan way of theirs, I assumed they were just trying to spook the new guy. On my third shift, Josh told me not to go into the shelter after 11. "Why?" I asked. He shrugged like I'd asked something obvious. "It gets cold." "It's an underground station. Everything gets cold." "No," he said, "not like that." I waited for the joke. It never came. A few days later, Mia was showing me how to reset one of the rooms, the padlocks, the hidden compartments, the fake blood capsules. As we left, one of the old ticket windows slammed shut behind us on its own. I jumped. Mia didn't even flinch. "If the window's close on their own, just ignore it," she said. "That happens often. Only when it's busy." I laughed. Nobody else ever did. My first closing shift alone was a Wednesday. Quiet night. Just two groups booked in, one finishing up in Last Train, another just starting the Blackout. Mia stood at the front desk, coat already on, running through the closing procedure one last time. "Reset the rooms once the last group leaves. Check the toilets, turn off all the lights, lock the front door from the inside before you cash up." I nodded. "And the shelter?" she asked. "Locked before 11, I said. "Good." She held my gaze a beat too long. "Because it gets cold," I said, trying to smile. She didn't smile back. "Because it gets cold." Then she reached across the desk and tapped the keys clipped to my belt. "Ignore the strange noises. Don't go looking for anything after close, and keep your keys on you." I laughed under my breath. "You all really commit to the bit." "Yeah," she said, walking toward the door. "That's what everyone says." The bell chimed as she stepped out into the rain. She turned back once and mouthed something through the glass. I didn't need to hear it. "Keep your keys on you." For the first hour, everything was completely normal. I sat behind reception doing coursework, glancing occasionally at the CCTV monitors. Every room looked exactly how it should. Customers arguing over clues, laughing at jump scares, taking too long on easy puzzles. Then something moved on one of the screens. Not in the Blackout. The shelter. I looked up properly. The feed was grainy gray, same as always. Rows of wooden benches, sandbags, a fake collapsed doorway. The room was supposed to be completely empty. For a second, I thought I saw a shape slip between the benches. A dark blur there and gone. I checked the booking system. No one was in the shelter. I glanced at the clock. 11:05. The shelter, locked before 11. I stood up fast, chest tightening. It was fine, 5 minutes. Maybe the cameras were glitching. Maybe someone was messing with me. Probably. The corridor to the shelter felt longer than it had that morning. With every step, the air grew colder, not the ordinary underground chill, but something sharper, deeper, like the cold had been waiting behind the walls and had just now found a way out. By the time I reached the door, goosebumps covered both arms. There were voices inside. Not one voice, dozens. Low, overlapping whispers, too quiet to make out words but too clear to be pipes or old speakers, like a crowd trying very hard not to be heard. My fingers shook as I reached for my keys. For one terrible second, I couldn't find them. Then I felt the cold metal against my belt loop, and I breathed again. "Just lock it," I whispered. "Lock it and go." The key slid in easily. The whispers stopped all at once. I turned the key, the lock clicked. Nothing happened. I stepped back. That's fine, I told myself, forcing a laugh. That's probably fine. I walked back to reception. I did not run. By the time I got there, the blackout had 5 minutes left on the timer. I sat down, opened my laptop, and stared at the same paragraph until the words stopped meaning anything. The timer hit 0. A few seconds later, the last group stumbled out of the blackout, laughing too loud, the way people do when they're trying to shake off fear. 4 of them, early 20s, buzzing off adrenaline. Good room, I asked as they collected their things. Sick, one of them said, proper scary. The crying woman was horrible, though, one girl added, laughing as she pulled her coat on. Whose idea was that? I froze. What crying woman? The one in the corner, she said, near the end when the lights went out. Her friend nodded, just sitting there sobbing, thought she was a mannequin at first, then she moved. My stomach dropped. There was no crying woman in the blackout, no actors assigned to that room at all. Right, I said, forcing a smile. Yeah, she's new. They laughed, impressed, and headed for the exit. The bell chimed behind them and the station went quiet again. I checked the monitor. The corner they'd pointed to was empty. Somehow that made it worse. I told myself it was a coat, a prop, someone winding me up because I was new. Probably. Resetting the blackout went fine, technically. I checked behind every curtain twice. I flinched at every creak of old flooring. I nearly dropped a prop lantern when I caught my own reflection in a cracked mirror. But nothing happened. No crying woman, no shapes in the corner, no whispers. By the time I finished the checklist, I'd almost convinced myself the whole night had been my imagination. Then the front door bell chimed. I stopped in the corridor. Footsteps, heavy boots on tile. My stomach dropped as I remembered Mia's instructions. Lock the front door before you cash up. I'd forgotten. Sorry, I called, hurrying back toward reception. We're closed. The words died in my throat. Reception was empty. The front door was shut. The street outside was dark, wet with rain, empty under the orange streetlights. No one was there. No one had walked in. I stood there listening. Nothing. Brilliant, I muttered, rubbing both hands over my face. I'm losing it. I reached for my keys. My fingers found nothing. I checked again and again, pockets, bag, desk under the chair beside the lockers. I walked back down the corridor, scanning the floor, trying to remember the exact moment I'd last felt them against my hip. They'd been there. I'd checked twice before resetting the room. Come on, I whispered. Come on, come on, come on. I was passing the shelter when the temperature dropped. Not gradually this time. All at once, rushing out from under the door, biting straight through my clothes. The lights above me flickered once, then steadied. And behind me, very softly, something jingled. My keys. I turned around. A little girl stood at the end of the corridor, no older than 7 or 8. Her dress was old, gray, shapeless with dirt. In one hand, a worn teddy bear hung by its leg. In the other hand, my keys. She was pale in a way no living person could be, not just white washed out, like all the color had been drained from her and only the shape remained. She looked straight at me, lifted the keys, jingled them once. Mum said you can open the door, she said. My mouth went completely dry. Behind her, the darkness moved, not one shape. Many. Men in long coats, women with scarves tied over their heads, children clutching at sleeves, faces gray with dust, eyes wide, waiting. The whispering started again. Only now I could understand every word. Open it. Please. Let us out. The air's gone. The girl took one small step toward me. Mum said you have the keys. Something inside me broke. I ran. I didn't think about the cash register. I didn't think about the lights, the alarm, or the fact that I was almost certainly getting fired. I grabbed my bag and shoved through the front door so hard the bell above it screamed. The last thing I heard before I hit the street was the sound of my keys jingling behind me. Not chasing. Sobbing. I never went back. I didn't answer any calls. I didn't reply to any texts. I blocked the work group chat before anyone could ask why I'd left the door open and the alarm unset. But one message got through before I blocked her. A photo of the staff rota. My name crossed out in red pen. And beside it, in neat handwriting, 13 days, longer than most.